Alright everyone, so today's project is to install these shocks and struts on this 2006 Honda Civic EX. These are the part numbers I went with for the rear, 348023, and for the left and right fronts right there. There was a bit of controversy as to what part numbers I needed for this car. This is the same part number that the SI uses. I contacted KYB directly. They said they do not make shocks and struts for the coupe, only for the sedan. But according to several sources, the only difference between the SI and the regular coupe would be the damping ratio of the shocks and struts. So I don't mind a somewhat stiff ride that the SI would provide, so I went with these. So, one of the first things you're going to need to do before changing this is to assess whether or not you need to change your shocks and struts on the car. This one, my wife was complaining that she was hearing a weird noise when she would go over a bump on the left-hand side in the back. So I got underneath, took a quick look at the shock, and if you can see here, it's wet. That's where the shock oil has been leaking out of the shock. That indicates that, obviously, there's a bad seal on the shock. It's blown the seal out and it's leaking the fluid. So that is a clear indication that these need to be changed out. The rears are actually very simple. They are not a strut design. They are a shock and spring design in the back. So really all you have to do is remove that one bolt there and then go inside the trunk. Pardon the mess back here. This is the wife's car once again. And inside the trunk you've got the top of the strut tower. You remove that bolt there. So once you remove that bolt, it's literally only 2 bolts. You're going to remove that unit out of the car. There may be some hardware that needs to be swapped over. I'm not entirely certain at this point. But I'm going to go ahead and remove the shock tube and see what we've got to work with. Okay, so this bolt on the upper shock is going to be the most difficult to work with. There are 3 plastic clips here, here, and here as well. If you remove those 3 plastic clips, you can kind of pull this whole piece down right here, gain better access to this. Now what you're going to have to do is when you're trying to loosen this nut, the top of this is going to want to spin. So you are going to need a 14mm open-end wrench like I have here, or a boxed-in wrench, and a 5mm Allen wrench to hold this steady while you loosen that. So that's the trick to getting this upper mount off. So you have the upper bolt removed. The next part is to remove this lower bolt. This is also a 14mm. Pretty easy. You don't even have to hold the nut on the other side because it's welded on. So just loosen this. Well, you actually have to remove this one completely. You can see what I'm doing there. Sorry about the shaky camera. It always makes it fun when you're trying to do a job and hold a camera at the same time. I'm doing it for you guys. Help you out a little. You're welcome. That's not ready. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So, it's pretty easy to remove the shock once those bolts are out. Just pull it out, gain a little clearance. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this while holding the camera. But basically all you do is just kind of swing it down out of the way and then pull this straight down to remove this shock tube. Okay, so here we have the old shock tube sitting next to the new shock tube, and you can see that the new shock tube has come with all new mounting hardware. So this is going to go on the bottom side just like right here, just like the old one. It looks like this shim is going to have to go inside of there, and don't forget to replace the rubber bushing that's inside the body of the car right here. You may have to pry this out with a screwdriver or something. It looks like it's seated in there pretty good. But make sure you swap that out as well. And that's pretty much the rear shocks. You just put it back up in place, put that upper nut back on there, reinstall the lower bolt, and that's the rear shocks. So I'll show you how to do the fronts also. Just a little quick tip, guys. If you're having trouble getting this bolt started and threaded in, just grab the upper shock tube and pull it down, like so, and then slightly tilt it towards the rear of the car. That will allow the threads to line up, and then you'll be able to get the bolt started. Once you have the bolt started, just kind of guide it back up into where it needs to be, and then install that upper nut.